Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Just wanted to make a quick NBA video. I haven't made an NBA video for this channel yet, but want to start doing some weekly recaps, probably every Friday after the Thursday, primetime games on TNT. But just wanted to get my thoughts out there regarding just key things that are going on throughout the week. So, like I said, probably every Friday. So last night we had Golden State at Boston, and Boston has, I believe, gone to a 14 game winning streak since they started the year 0-2, getting a really, really impressive victory over the big bad wolves in the league, the Golden State Warriors. And wow, what an incredible performance by Jaylen Brown. His friend passed away, I believe, the day before, and just going out there and giving it his all and really playing for a greater calling there. And that was really inspiring to see. And I saw he was very, very emotional after the game, and obviously they went into it. So shout out to Jaylen Brown. He's actually a point of emphasis I want to start on, because one of the reasons why Kyrie went there, and I thought it was kind of under reported and not talked about enough, was the culture and the coaching at Boston. And I touch on coaching a lot in my NFL videos. It's a little bit different in the NBA, but it's still very, very important. The upgrade that he's gotten going from Tyronn Lue to Brad Stevens and that organization with Danny Ainge, the structure that's there, the plan that they have in place for their young guys and their future, and the way they develop players, it's very, very impressive. And I think Kyrie saw that. If you look at Jaylen Brown from last year to now, last year he was just this raw athletic guy who was more of a defensive player. You saw why he was a number 3 pick, but you're just like, it's probably a few years off. And then even starting with opening night against Cleveland, he was locked in and looks like a borderline all-star now. Just the work that he's put in. I remember seeing something on Instagram the day after they lost to Cleveland in the playoffs. He's in the gym getting shots up. His jump shot is to the point of respectability. His athleticism, ability to drive it, opened up all those parts of his game. And I give credit to their coaching staff, their development team, because they were able to get them to maximize players' talent, just the way they were able to maximize Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder when they were there, Avery Bradley as well. So I'm very, very impressed with the Boston organization. They're not right now. I don't even think they're the most talented team in the East, to be honest with you. I mean, they have a lot of young talent, but they're maximizing everything out of every single guy that comes out on the court. And then they have guys like Al Horford, who are great leaders in the locker room and good for your culture. Golden State's going to be fine. I don't know what the hell Steph is doing with his hair, trying to do locks or whatever. He needs to cut that out, because he just looks ridiculous. And his game was, I don't know what was up with him. He was off last night. So was Clay. I think Charles mentioned it. He made a good point. They're not going to go over 8 for 32 in a 4 times in a playoff series. So that is something to note. As well as Boston played, Golden State played very, very poorly, fouled a lot, and just didn't make the typical open shots that they normally do. But I still like Golden State overall. Honestly, until we see them dethroned, I mean, they're going to be the favorites. Um, Houston, Chris Paul came back last night. I know the Phoenix game was ridiculous. Phoenix is terrible, but it was good to see Chris Paul back. James Harden right now has to be the league MVP. He's averaging over 30 points a game, over 10 assists. His numbers have actually increased from last year's almost MVP campaign. I actually had Kawhi Leonard as my MVP, just because of what he did offensively and defensively. But if it wasn't for Kawhi, I would have had Harden over Westbrook. But James is picked up right where he left off. He looks like he's actually even in better shape. And I like the way their team is, but I like the acquisitions of Bob Mute and PJ Tucker. I think they're a lot tougher. They still can hit the corner three. But they're guys that are going to be able to play in playoff games, because last year they had too many guys that D'Antoni couldn't trust in that Spurs series, and they ran out of gas. You couldn't do a 7-man rotation, especially against a system that's as surgical as the San Antonio Spurs. So, excuse me. Thought that was very interesting. I want to touch real quick, just since we're doing an NBA roundtable, on my boy Joel Embiid, and I affectionately call him my boy. We might even be kin. I'm actually half Cameroonian. My father was born and raised in Cameroon, and so anybody that ever comes out of there, Roger Miller, Samuel Eto'o, we cherish them, right? And Joel Embiid is a national treasure of ours. I've loved him since I heard about him going to Kansas, and his personality, like he is so good globally for the NBA brand. I mean, he's a nasty. He's 7'2". He has a game that we really haven't seen before. I mean, he has a lot of Hakeem in him. Their stories are similar. Their body, I mean, but he's actually so much bigger than Hakeem was. His ability to stretch out, and I know when Hakeem played, Hakeem probably could have shot the ball that way if it was encouraged. I think Hakeem could have done anything on the court, but in that time, centers had to play a certain type of way. But what we're seeing with Embiid is next level stuff. I mean, even his passing ability in the interior. I think in that Lakers game he had 7 assists, but to go 46 points, 15 boards, 7 assists, 7 blocks, 5 blocks, I believe in the third quarter. I mean, that is crazy. 20. He did it on 20 shots and only 34 minutes of play. Like, what happens when we really, really take off the minutes restriction on Embiid? Because really, with him at this point, the only question is health. I don't really question health with Ben Simmons because he hadn't been hurt. I mean, I think he could have played last year. They just held him back. But the fact that Philadelphia, out of like the 4 really young, unique unicorns in the league, Giannis, Porzingis, Ben Simmons, and Embiid, Philly has 2 of them. And I agree with what Chris Broussard said the other day about they actually may be the future of the East and maybe the NBA, not Boston, because that's crazy. I mean, what they have going on right now with Ben Simmons' passing ability, I mean, he looks like his own, mini LeBron, but even different in the way he navigates through the lane and finds guys. But excuse me, Joel Embiid, his footwork, jump shot, being able to finish with both hands in the paint, being just nasty, and he makes free throws. That is such a huge key. So he can be in there at the end of the games, and you can foul him, and you can trust him going on the line that he's going to convert at the free throw line. There's a lot of great bigs who've been held back by the free throw shooting issue. So very, very impressed with Joel Embiid. I'm actually a San Antonio Spurs fan, for those of you who don't know. And right now, I believe we're 9-6. We had a tough loss at Minnesota the other day. But overall, I've been impressed with what I've seen from LaMarcus Aldridge, resurrecting his confidence. I like the fact that while Kawhi has been out, we've really catered the offense to him and getting him in rhythm. One of the things I've noted to a lot of my Spurs buddies is he's come in such better shape this season than he has the previous 2 seasons, in my opinion. He did look a little chunky for him because he's a more longer, lean guy that needs to. He's more of a finesse basketball player, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be in the proper shape for that. Love the Rudy Gay acquisition. He's been great for us so far. Very, very athletic, and I think his value will pay off big time in the playoffs, especially when we get Kawhi back. Seeing him play next to Kawhi will be great. My guy, personal fan favorite. I'm a fan of his. Not all Spurs fans are, but Kyle Anderson. I like what I've seen from him. Now he's still a little inconsistent, but he's been a lot more assertive this season. I just love his basketball IQ. Whenever I see him pass or move or cut, he's always making the right basketball play. And I know he's going in slow motion, but it actually messes guys up. So he uses it to his advantage. With all that being said, the Spurs are still struggling to get back into that top tier of the West because of Kawhi Leonard. So the league, I mean, to me, the season really doesn't start until we see Kawhi play. He's probably not going to come back till mid-December. I don't know when, but once we see him in there, I'm really, really, really excited to see what this team looks like. Oh, hold on, buddy. Apollo, I think, wants to say hi. I'm not sure. But other roundtable notes, very impressed with Porzingis. To me, he's an MVP candidate. What he's doing in the Knicks. The Knicks are fun again. I heard somebody mention on one of the sports shows that the Knicks, when they're at their best, are playing that physical, tough 'em up brand of basketball. And I was really, really proud of them and Cantor to hold their own against LeBron in Cleveland. Be tough, and that's how they were in the '90s, in the Oakley days, and John Starks and Ewing and all those guys. They were tough. They only had really one superstar, and everybody else was just tough basketball players. I like their boy Frankie Nicotine or the French Prince. He's only 19. It reminds me a lot of the excitement of what we had with Tony Parker back in '01. But I just love the way that they're coming along. They've been freed of Phil. They've been freed of a lot of Carmelo and a lot of that nonsense. Speaking of Carmelo, what's up with the OKC Thunder? I think Russell Westbrook, I think he has to get to a point where he's still trying to find that balance between trying to prove to everybody he's a point guard and just doing what he did last year. And I understand he can't do what he did last year to a certain level because he has Paul George and Carmelo, but that team after those three and Steven Adams is very, very short-handed. So Russ has to get back to doing the heavy lifting, has to get back to being more assertive and finding spots in the game where he can be a distributor and finding spots in the game where he's just like, you know what, even like he did with KD, I'm going to have to take over the game sometimes. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think if he can do that, he'll get back on track. But, you're kind of seeing the Carmelo effect with them. I mean, he's not, unless he's Team USA Melo just playing hard down there on the block. I mean, he's early 2000s basketball, wants to take mid-range jump shots and chill. So we'll see. I've always been skeptical of Melo. I was skeptical of the move. I liked when they got Paul George. But the Carmelo thing it's almost like a culture thing. Speaking of culture, what's up with Cleveland? And that's where I want to end this video is with Cleveland and LeBron and all those guys. They're always the talk of the league, obviously. But I think a lot of their struggles, we have to kind of put it on pause for a second because Isaiah Thomas hasn't played. And that was the big chip that they made in that Kyrie trade. I think a lot of this, if Isaiah is able to come back and they're able to go on a little bit of a run and get some better chemistry. But even still, I don't know how Isaiah even helps them on defense because that seems to be their biggest problem. I don't think they have problems scoring. I mean, they have all the shooting they need around somebody like a LeBron. But the biggest thing is going to be, can they get stops defensively? They have regressed so much as a defensive basketball team. A couple years ago, they were one of the best defensive teams at times when they really wanted to be in the league. And I understand with LeBron being in year 15, he's not going to guard the same way anymore. And some of those, and Kevin Love's never been a great defender, but they've got to get, and that also goes in line with coaching, just finding the right lineups depending on teams. And right now, it seems like LeBron's the head coach, not Tyronn Lue. I know Skip and some of these other guys call him the assistant coach. So, I mean, right now he's kind of showing that. So we'll see. A lot of cool stuff going on in the league. I love this time of the year. Watching teams find their identity. But again, really, really excited to make this weekly series about the NBA. And I'll be back with you guys next week from an NBA perspective to cover more. Thank you.